Okay, next we are going to build what's called the horizontal chassis element. This is going to lie in the middle of the element that we already built eventually, but for right now we're just going to build it and set it aside, and we'll actually put them together later. So the first thing we're going to do is to build a little middle part. For this you need 3 of these cute little beams, and they say to use 1 yellow and 2 blue. I don't think in this case there's any difference between them, but it's a cute color combination, so go for it. And we have 3 of these blue pegs and a couple of black pegs as well. So the yellow unit's going to be in the middle. So we're going to run our blue peg through so that it sticks out on both sides. This is a case where it doesn't matter which way you go. And then we'll put a blue one on either end to make a little block like this. Now what we're going to do is to run a blue peg through this direction, and on the other end we'll run a blue peg through the other direction. So this is locking these 3 together really securely, and then we'll just match the other corners with black pegs, and then these will connect to the beams that we're going to add in just a minute. Okay, so here is our beam. This is, I think, the longest beam in the kit. It's 15 units long. And we're going to connect our little centerpiece to it. You want the blue peg to be, let's say, toward you as you're doing this, and we're going to count down 3 holes from the end, and the blue peg goes in the 4th hole. Just like that. So it looks like this. Now we're going to take a couple of other pieces. This is a strange little piece that changes direction. So it has a hole in one direction and it has an axle beam in the other. And so we're going to take a little connector peg that has an axle at one end, and it has just a regular peg at the other. And we're going to put that into the axle part at the bottom, this like so. And then we're going to connect this to this beam just past the black peg that's sticking through. So we're going to use one of our long blue connectors. We'll run it through this hole first and then attach it like so. Okay, now we're going to do that again with another beam and another set of the little what do they call these, cross connector, I think, or something like that. So once again, we're going to put the little half peg, half axle into the bottom part of this cross piece. And we want to connect these up, but what we're going to do is at the same time, we're going to add some other pieces to it. So this gets a little tricky to build, but I think I can add this little piece to the axle or to the beam before we go on any further. So it's how many down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm put this guy like that. And except I've built it backwards, because I want the end of the little axle piece to be pointing away from me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now when you look at the 2 pieces together, they should look symmetrical. Okay, so we're going to connect these 2 right here, but we're going to add some pieces down here at this end, and we have to do that at the same time. So let me show you those pieces. We have first this piece. It's got a hole through the middle and then 2 axle ends. We have 2 of those. They're going to go right next to each other. And then we have a set of 4 axles. Each of these axles is 5 long if you measure it out. And we have 1 little black peg that we're going to use to stick these 2 units together. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So you just take the hole in the middle and you put a black peg in it, and then you attach the other one. So you make 1 black unit that has 4 axles on it. Okay. Then what we're going to do is to put the axles, this is 1 down from the end. We're going to put an axle through this hole and into this axle piece that we've built. And the same thing with the one that's right next to it. Okay, like that. Now we can connect the two together, and we do the same thing over here. We run axles through the other direction and into the center piece. So when all is said and done, it should look like this. We have a use for these axles later on, but we aren't going to do anything with them right now. We're just building these funny shaped sets pieces. Okay, that's it for this, and we'll go on to the next step. All right, so the next step is to build the motor components. So this is what we're using. This is the large motor in the Lego kit. It is, in fact, a servo motor, which is really nice for us because it gives us a little more precision. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the servo motor, and this is an axle piece, but this is an axle with a cap on one end. So you want to make sure you find that one. And what we're going to do is to stick it all the way through. This is the unit that rotates. We're going to stick this axle all the way through. Like this. All right, and then we're going to build some structure that will prevent put the wheel in the right place and keep it from hitting where it's not supposed to hit. So for that we need a 7 long beam, and we'll use a little blue peg to attach it to the motor unit, and then a black peg which will let us attach the next part of our construction. So this is going to line up right like this so that its back end matches the little beam that's part of the motor unit. And so the blue peg is going to go through like this. Notice that I'm putting the peg in from the side where the axle is sticking out, and it's going to 3 in from the end of the beam, and it just clicks in like that and attaches this beam. And then we go 2 down from that and we add a black peg, so it looks like that. Now we're going to add another unit before we get to the wheel, and these are the parts for that unit. It's another 3x5L, and it's one of these little 3 long beams in green and 2 little pegs to help attach it. So what we want is for the L to be pointing back toward the back of the motor, and it's going to slide over the axle for the wheel. And then you notice that it lines up very nicely with the blue and black pegs, and it just clicks into position. The axle can rotate freely because this is just a round hole, but this piece is going to basically give us some structure here. All right, now the next thing we're going to do, we'll add a black peg on either side of the axle on the white L beam. And then we're going to slide this green piece on. So again, the center is going over the axle and the other pieces are right in place. This is going to allow us to push a wheel on here and have the wheel not come in contact with the motor itself. All right, so these are the wheels. If you look, one side has a circle, one side has an axle. The axle end is the end you want to put inward. When you do this, make sure that it's the axle's not sliding out the other side. And then we need something to just lock it in place, and there are these cute little yellow pieces. They're itty bitty, and we're just going to put that on the end as a cap. And that's it. Now, I've already built another one, and so in the end, you'll build 2 of these. You want to make sure they're symmetrical to each other so that you have a wheel for each side of the robot.